Good afternoon, happy Friday, and welcome to this week's edition of Shaynels 3 Cents. I'm your host, founder, and executive director of Our Blended Families. And again, I want to say welcome and thank you for tuning in to this week's edition. We're going to start off the show by enjoying a few of my favorite recent and popular news articles. As many of you know, I love to follow local politics as well as national politics, and something that I thought was quite interesting. And while we may talk a little bit about the Jussie Smollett case, we may talk a little bit about the shenanigans going on with Congress and Devin Nunes, and of course all things Lindsey Graham and his colleagues Mitch McConnell. But something that I found interesting from a family life perspective is some stuff that's going on in a couple of states. I was reading through some of the recent news stories. And while we have a few states, I know we talked a couple of weeks ago about the state of California and how their governor decided that he was going to cease all death penalty executions. And while that was certainly something that the voters had not voted for, it was something that the governor found was just. He thought that it was a practice that he could implement and, of course, get the voters behind to say that they recognized the reasons why they decided to vote for the death penalty, as well as some of the reasons why they also realized that there were a lot of racial disparities going on. And there were a lot of people that were most likely being unjustly convicted and, of course, unjustly executed because of the way the criminal justice system is set up nationwide, but more importantly, some of the things that were going on in the state of California. So while I think it's very important to watch what happens in our local states, because, of course, we know that the governors are the ones that actually direct those actions, I thought that it was a little humorous because we did have another state that decided they were going to do something different. As I'm trying to scroll through this, and you all have to forgive me, it looks like I lost my bookmark, but I believe it was I'm not going to say the state's name until it pops up because I certainly don't want to put out fake news and, of course, information that it's wrong. But a state recently decided that they were going to pass a bill to make sure that people were aware that you could no longer be prosecuted for fornicating. Yeah, so that was our dramatic pause. And of course, thank you to Ron, our engineer. But as many of you know, there are a lot of old laws that sit on the books in many areas. Some of them are local laws. Some of them, of course, are state and federal laws. But a lot of states still have laws surrounding sexual orientation that are illegal. There are still some entities where it's illegal to perform an act of sodomy. And so I know some of the folks in the LGBTQ communities kind of walk that thin line depending upon where you reside. But there are still a couple of states where you can be found guilty of the crime of fornication and adultery. Now, mind you, we most likely hear about these incidences when it comes to family court hearings or divorce proceedings, wherein one party accuses the other of course, performing one of these acts that causes deterioration of the marriage. But I find it interesting because of the commentary that was sent on social media. So they had a lot of people that were concerned about, well, if you can no longer be convicted, and mind you, the penalty within the state was up to 6 months in jail and, of course, a fine. But a lot of the memes were pretty humorous for people saying, well, now that it's no longer legal to have sex with my side chick or no longer illegal to have sex with, my mistress, what can we do now? So again, I think it's pretty intent for us to be mindful of some of the laws that are going on in our area, how those laws might affect you. Certainly if you're, living your life and trying to do what we say, living your best life, you want to do that, but you also want to make sure that you're not violating any laws. And so to that I say, do what you want to do, but be mindful. And of course, notice that these things do happen, and notice that there are a lot of people putting a lot of action to it. There was also a case that came to the forefront the other day. There's new legislation that's pending, of course, federal legislation with regard to inequity when it comes to men and women. This isn't a new story. This is something that we've heard since the beginning of time, that so-called glass ceiling that women are never able to achieve. We've seen historically racial disparity, not racial, but we've seen inequities with regard to women's salaries. We've seen inequity with regard to things that women have to pay for. We've also seen inequities when it comes to housing discrimination, when women go get oil changes, when they're looking for loans and things of that nature. So there are a lot of differences that men and women tend to see. But we finally have some folks sitting in the House that finally decided that it's time to do something about it. And so there are a couple of representatives that have put forth some legislation that will actually bring these issues to a forefront. It was brought up recently that there's this item that they call the pink tax. And I certainly want to applaud the Daily Show. They had some commentary on it as well as CNN, with regard to how women are treated unfairly economically from a capitalist standpoint. Apparently, you can go to your favorite supermarket and buy a nice razor for X amount of dollars. And then if you keep walking down that aisle, you see the exact same razor that's the same quality, same size, maybe same shape. But that same razor in the men's side is almost $1 less than what the women's are. And that's nothing new. They said they tend to do these things because they know that women will spend money for things that look nice, apparently things that they've converted to quote unquote women's size things. They talked about strollers, items for children. If you have t-shirts for a boy and a girl, the boy's t-shirt has some male wording that says, hey, let's go ride trucks. And the young lady's t-shirts is blue and it says, oh, let's go pick up our Barbie dolls. There are disparities in the pricing. And this was shocking to me because I'd never heard of this before. Now, I know that, y'all, people that know me know that I don't like to spend a lot of money. I'm very, very spendthrift, except when it comes to like weave and stuff like that. And of course, my eyelashes, wink, wink. But it was really alarming to find out that this has been going on. And apparently a lot of companies are familiar with this because they've been doing it for quite some time, which is why it's come to the forefront that it's time to have some sort of redress for women. So I think that it's important for us to note, be mindful of where you're spending your money. Be mindful of the things that you really want. I'm one of those people, if you catch me with a Coach bag, know that I didn't buy it. If you catch me with anything that has MK, you guys know that I always thought MK stood for Mary Kay. I didn't know it was Michael Kors. I don't do the labeling thing, one, because I'd rather have my money inside my purse than on the outside of my purse. But again, it's certainly up to you how you choose to do that. But be mindful of things that are unfair to others. We're certainly living in an era, particularly because of what our political views are, folks that are on the Democratic side, folks that are on the Republican side, and then of course you have the extremes on the left and the right, the folks that lean more to the conservative pool, and also the folks that are on the liberal side. We don't have to agree about everything, but we should try to be fair towards each other. And it's a little disappointing when you find out that there are things that happen to women, there are issues that women put themselves in, and or issues and circumstances that men tend to put us in, and we don't realize that we're being unfairly taken advantage of. I remember being told a long time ago that it was time to go get an oil change. Make sure you take your brother with you. Make sure you take a male friend with you. And I'm like, well, why? It's just an oil change. It's $19.99. I'm going to take my coupon and I'm going to go get my oil change. Lo and behold, there were some issues that circled around that. And I know there was a huge case quite a few years ago concerning Jiffy Lube. And we know that people want to upsell and make sure they give you all the important information about your vehicle, your tires, whether or not you want any of your fluids topped off or anything like that. But there are certainly issues that are real, that when women go into certain places, they're treated differently. We are oftentimes taken advantage of because of our lack of knowledge. Most women don't know how to change a tire. I happen to know how to do that. Most women aren't familiar with, the inner workings of a car, whether or not you're a mechanic, or maybe you watched your dad when he was fixing cars as a youngster, or maybe you were someone that knows about, plumbing and things in your housing communities. But it's not equitable. And so we have to certainly watch for that, but we also have to speak up. And so I, for one, am looking forward to seeing how this legislation comes out concerning the pink tax, things that women tend to pay more for simply because they know that women don't pay attention. I didn't think that it was one of those things that if I went to the store and wanted to buy some lotion, my favorite lotion, that the same brand in a different package and that same aisle that's marketed towards men is usually cheaper than it is towards women. So again, that's another one of those things that we're like, not too sure about that. So we want to make sure as we move forward that we're constantly updating our information. We're constantly recognizing whether or not the information that's being fed to us is actually true, checking our sources, making sure that it's not harmful content, making sure that it's not derogatory towards anyone, and again, making sure that it's something that's going to be the best for us. I remember as a child, my aunt told me, be careful what you learn. And I remember thinking, I don't know what that means. But as a child, we tell, when we're young, we get fed information. We get told you make your bed. We get told you need to eat all your food. We get told you need to clean your room, make sure that you go to school on time. But you were also told how to think when you're young. And it's important for us to recognize that it's not so much how to think, but it's also learn how to think, not just accept what things that are told to us, but making sure that we recognize, how do I weigh A versus B? How do I differentiate what's going on the A side versus what's going on the B side? So again, don't just accept anything that's said to you. Make sure that you're listening. Make sure you're doing some research. If you're someone that doesn't like research, ask a friend, ask a family member, hey, did you hear about that? Did you hear that they're doing this? Did you hear that they're doing that? But it's always in our best interest to make sure that we're looking out for one another. That's one of the highest platforms that I'm also going to always ride upon. It's also one of those platforms that I undertake in my daily life, whether or not I'm doing work or it's a hobby, but making sure that we're taking care of one another. And so with that, I want to go into the show and some of the past guests that we've had. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with a slideshow from some of the guests that we've had in the past year on the Shaynels 3 Cent Show. And we're going to chat a little bit about some of those guests, some of the topics, hopefully laugh a little bit about some of the things that were presented to you all. And of course, I did have a bloopers reel, but unfortunately I wasn't able to pull that together. I'm not really disappointed about that because I don't like to show all my bloopers. But again, give us a short break, and we're going to come back and show a video about the history here on Shaynels 3 Cents. We'll see you right back after these moments.
In 2018, I personally helped several people reclaim their healthy lives with a ketogenic lifestyle. Together with our team at Wakaya Perfection, we have helped over 4,000 people struggling with weight loss, burn off unwanted fat naturally, control hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and high cholesterol with our Beulah Fit Keto Fuel Shake and high-impact ginger and turmeric. Contact me for yours. Buttons about that ketolife.mywakaya.com. That's BUTTONSBOUTTATEITHOLIFE.MYWAKAYA.com or call 202-875-3926.
This is a keto-friendly diet, and weight loss expectation is approximately 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results can and will vary.
Business owners looking for a place to advertise your business and promote your products and services? VoxWave is the right place. We have over 10,000 views a day and 70,000 listeners a month. For more information, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
VoxWave now features a streaming radio media player on our website's front page, where local artists can get their music played 24/7. For more information on getting your music in rotation or to perform live at our studio, contact Reg Gaskins at 240-832-4455.
Android users, the VoxWave app is now available in the Google Play Store. Download the app today on your Android device to listen in and view programs.
Welcome back. Thank you all for taking that break with us. Before we go into the slideshow, I want to do a nice little review and overview of the reasons why I started the Shaynels 3 Cent Show here on VoxWave. As a certified family life educator, there are certain things that are important to me that I feel are vital to share with the community. Family life educators are actually sanctioned through the National Council on Family Relations. And you can get information about that on their website, again, the National Council on Family Relations, which is also on our OBF website. But family life educators, what we do is there's a practice concerning the knowledge and discipline about all things concerning family science. And typically you find family life educators in a variety of roles across the social services area, whether or not we're considering societal issues such as economics, education, finances, work-life values, work-life issues as well, parenting, sexuality, gender, but a variety of issues that impact society and how they're based within the family region and how they're looked at essentially from the context of the family. Family life educators also believe that societal problems and issues that we face, substance abuse, domestic abuse, unemployment, debt, child abuse, all of these issues can be more effectively addressed if we look at it from a perspective that considers individuals as part of a family. So again, a variety of areas are all housed under one umbrella called the family sciences, which is what we consider family life education. And so what we try to do is we apply a lot of that knowledge into functioning to help try to prevent some of these problems from happening. And so it's been the root of the show. We always wanted to bring out people that could speak to some of these areas, that also had programs or were working on grassroots efforts to try to combat some of those issues and, of course, uplift them. We mentioned before that we talk about also the IEUs, things that inform, things that educate, and things that uplift our community. And so that, again, is the basis of why we created the show. And looking at the family context, we wanted to look at some of the internal dynamics of families, looking at parenting issues from single parent perspective, also married couples perspective, because a lot of people also are under the misunderstanding that married couples don't have issues that single parents face, which is simply not true. And so there's a host of journals, white papers, and other educational areas that discuss how to raise your children in a healthy family, whether or not you're a one-person household and or two-person household. We also look at human growth and development, how we're growing as individuals, looking at the healthcare system, whether or not we have adequate access to healthcare, whether or not there are disparities within those systems, whether or not we have equal access to proper healthcare, and how, of course, they affect our individuals, and whether or not you're able to go to work because you may be sick and you had no access to healthcare because you didn't have any. Whether or not you're able to adequately create kids and or have kids when you don't really know a lot about birth control, or you really don't know about anything about contraceptive and or sexuality. We also look at interpersonal relationships. We've had guests that have come on and talked about how do we communicate with one another, whether or not it's a loved one, whether or not it's a bilateral relationship with just yourself and your barber, yourself and the person that does your hair, yourself and one of your teachers or one of your professors at a university. So again, looking at a variety of different relationships that all look at the human dynamic of interpersonal relationships. Family resource management. Folks that have had events that have been surrounded around the community, whether it's focused on a local level, things in Prince George's County, things in D.C., things in Baltimore. But again, anything that can help uplift our families, shine a spotlight on some of the inequities in our areas that are not getting enough attention. Those are the reasons why, we've tried to bring on the guests that we've had in the past. And so it's always been a pleasure to me to reach out to folks and have folks connect with me to say, hey, Shaynel, I'm interested in sharing some knowledge with your audience, sharing my background with regard to, this particular area that I'm working in and how we can help the human cause forward. And so with that, we're going to show a video of the span of the Shaynel's 3 Cents and some of the guests that we've had. The video will also feature our My Beloved theme music that was created by Crescendo Forever Entertainment. And hopefully you guys can take this little trip down memory lane with me. So, and with that, let's get the video started. Our Facebook folks, unfortunately, you'll have to catch this a little bit later because we're going to go live onto our YouTube set. So if you're able to, go ahead and tune in. If you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, you can pull us up under Vox Wave Live, and that's all 3 different words, Vox space live dot Vox dot space dot live. I can't get my words together. Vox Wave Live, all 3 spaces, all 3 words. So again, with no further ado, we're going to show the little highlight video from this year from Shaynel's 3 Cents and our past guests. that concludes the little video that we had. And again, the video just highlighted a lot of the guests that we've had in the past. If I missed you, definitely let me know. My apologies. Please charge it to my head and not my heart. But again, we want to thank all the guests and those people that came out to support all things Our Blended Families, because again, the goal is to make sure that we're putting information out there that's true and correct, putting information out there so that people can decide and look for themselves whether or not the information is true, whether or not it's sustainable for them and their families, whether or not it's something that they were able to get connected with or possibly share with a friend or a family member. And so with that, we want to say thank you all for tuning in. We're going to cut this issue short because this will be my last show here on Vox Wave. I want to say thank you to my awesome engineer, Mr. Ron, and of course the owner of Vox Wave, Mr. Reg Gaskins, and all the wonderful other co-hosts and guests that support the station. Again, I certainly wish you all the best. And you'll be able to find me. I'll be out in social media land. You can still stay connected to me on Facebook, of course on Twitter, and of course Instagram. But again, we will certainly continue the fight about making sure that we have important information, important resources, and important areas for people to stay connected to their families, to hopefully raise their families in a just society, in a society where they have economic empowerment, where they have access to jobs, where they have access to educations, and more importantly, where you have access to find out ways to improve your life and your well-being. So with that, again, we say thank you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. You can always catch past episodes on YouTube, as I mentioned before, under Vox Wave Live, Shaynels 3 Cents. Thank you, and have a wonderful Friday.